Hey everyone, I am dropping in today with a bit of a cheeky bonus episode for us today. And I say bonus just in a few senses. I guess in one sense, because this is somewhat unplanned, spontaneous. I just had this thought like rumbling around that I really wanted to share. But also bonus in the sense that right now we are in the middle of a whole season that is dedicated to the Sermon on the Mount. And this episode is not going to be directly related to the Sermon on the Mount, but it's definitely related to this whole idea of above the clouds and us thinking above the clouds. So I'm really excited just to share this today. And I'm going to call this thought the art of wonder. Today, I want to just share a little bit of my internal dialogue when it comes to wonder. I think that one of the greatest needs in our world today is a sense of wonder. You know, we live in a world that is full of wonder, and yet it's easy to live empty of wonder. I think it's because wonder is so often buried. It's actually just buried underneath familiarity and underneath the busyness of our days. We are so a distracted generation, a generation that puts so much emphasis on effectivity and get it done and move quickly and go from A to B. And so in some sense, we actually don't have time to have a sense of wonder. In many ways, as human beings, we can be hearing but not actually listening, or we can be looking but not actually seeing. And the invitation always from God is that we would see, that we would listen, and therefore that we would live and have a cultivated lifestyle of wonder itself. I love what John Foreman says. John Foreman says, "Why chase after wonder? Because life is a gift that demands a vibrant response." I don't know if you're like me, but I have moments where I'm just like, man, I just want to shout from the rooftops, like, life is not ordinary. Life is extraordinary, guys. Like for me, I remember studying and loving biology in high school. Man, I remember looking at a freaking piece of celery under a microscope and realizing how alive it really is beyond the naked eye. I mean, you're looking at the chlorophyll and the cell wall and the nucleus, and you're just like, man, like, and especially, I recognize that I'm a Christian, so my worldview is shaped by this. But I look around at the world and I'm like, the world is imbued. It is designed with such purpose and intentionality. Like the way that things work, the natural cycles of the world, it is absolutely amazing. And so wonder is everywhere. It's not the question. The question is not, is there wonder to be found? The question is, are we actually going to find the wonder? And wonder is actually something that I think is fairly extensively covered in the Word of God. You've got this recurring word, wonderful, full of wonder. It's in a lot of places, but one that comes to mind is this whole idea of wonderful is actually ascribed to Jesus. In the messianic prophecy in Isaiah chapter 9, he is described as the wonderful counselor. That word is like marvelous or astonishing or awesome or awe-inspiring. And so God himself, Jesus, is not just a counselor, he's a marvelous counselor. He is a wonderful counselor. But something that I've grown to become even more obsessed with is this phrase, which is not just wonderful, but actually too wonderful, like too much surplus, more than I can handle, overflowing with what is wonderful. I think about the backwoods of the book of Job, where Job is having this like unbelievable conversation with God. And he gets to the end of this conversation and Job puts his hand on his mouth and he says, "Surely I spoke of things that I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to actually know." It also makes me think about the wisdom literature. I think about Proverbs chapter 30, where it describes things in the world that are just too wonderful. It describes like the way of the eagle in the sky, the way of the serpent on the rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, or the intimacy between a man and a woman. You try to describe these things and you're like, wow, it's actually too wonderful. But I think the nucleus, the heart of what I wanted to share today was actually inspired by this phrase, too wonderful, that's actually used by David in one of my favorite Psalms. And so in Psalm 139, I just want to read the first 6 verses here. David says this: O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before and lay your hand upon me. Catch this: such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. So David, and we're all beneficiaries. We're all so grateful for the words of the sweet psalmist of Israel, the things that David penned to paper, the things that David spoke. But David is clearly in this moment where he is lost in wonder. He is considering a God that knows everything. A God that knows everything about us. He knows every hair that's on our head. He knows when we wake and when we go to sleep. He knows our thoughts. He knows our words. He knows our future. He knows our past. He goes before us. He comes behind us. He hems us in. He lays his hand upon us. This is the kind of personal God who would lay his hand upon us. And David is marveling at all of this stuff. And he's like, actually, this is so wonderful that it's actually too wonderful. Like I'm doing my best, but I cannot describe this. And then he says something so key. He says, it's too wonderful. Such knowledge is too wonderful. It is high. I cannot attain it. Listen up. I think one of the keys to activating wonder in our lives is to actually reach for it. Wonder is about reaching for the unreachable, searching for the unsearchable, fathoming the unfathomable, trying to comprehend the incomprehensible. I think wonder is actually found in the reaching. If you would reach for wonder, man, then you are going to find it. I think in life, there are key moments, don't get me wrong, there are key moments where wonder will reach for you and wonder will find you. It's those unexpected shock moments, those moments where we're astonished by the grace of God. Those moments where we are maybe like when Kayla and I were in Australia, we're walking the streets of Bronte and there is a double rainbow and suddenly you are lost in wonder. Wonder has found you. But I think as human beings, we can fall into a tendency of being too passive when it comes to wonder. I think the invitation is much more active. Would we be active? Would we actually reach for wonder? Because it's in the reaching that we actually find it. It's too high. I can't attain it, but I'm still going to try to attain it because when I try, I'm going to find something. I'm going to discover something. It's like what Paul says in 1 Corinthians. Now we know in part, and then there's going to come a time when we are going to know fully. At the end of the day, yes, God is too wonderful. The things of God, the world that we live in, it is too wonderful, but wonder is found in the reaching. It's cool because I was thinking about all of this stuff. I was obsessing over Psalm 139 before I read this excerpt that I'm about to read in a moment from A.W. Tozer's book, The Knowledge of the Holy. Tozer is, the context is that Tozer is in his chapter on the love of God. And so Tozer is trying his best to articulate and describe the love of God. And he says this. He says, I can no more do justice to that awesome and wonder-filled theme of love than a child can grasp a star. Still, By reaching toward the star, the child may call attention to it and even indicate the direction one must look to see it. So as I stretch my heart toward the high, shining love of God, someone who has not before known about it may be encouraged to look up and have hope. Okay, guys, that is so powerful. I want us to grasp this idea that in your reaching for what is wonderful, what you're reaching for what is too wonderful, other people are going to experience some measure and some level of that wonder. We are all grateful that A.W. Tozer didn't get to the idea of the love of God and go, oh man, that's too wonderful, I'm not even going to bother. No, he tries, because he describes himself like a kid reaching for the stars. I'm not gonna wrap my hands around a star, but it's in the reaching that other people are gonna know the direction to look, and other people are gonna look up and they're gonna discover something. That is where I believe that wonder is actually the birthplace of creativity. When you cultivate a sense of wonder, that is where the best art is going to come from. The art of wonder, the art that actually comes and finds its genesis, its origin in a sense of wonder. It's where the best poetry comes from, the best songs come from, the best books come from, the best graphic design, the best films. I think they all emerge from this place where you're actually reaching with your mind. And that is so cool that when we create art on the basis of the wonder that we've experienced, other people are invited into experiencing that same wonder. In other words, the art that we create is imbued with the very wonder that we have found and discovered. And I think that this can really be cultivated in a lot of different spaces. I want to kind of finish up even with, I love to think of myself as someone who loves storytelling and someone who loves all the different vehicles that you can use to tell story. So there's the spoken word, there's the written word, there's design, there's web, there's film, there's photography, there's all the things. There's all different ways that you can actually communicate something that is important. So I love the idea of reaching and grasping a sense of wonder and then wanting to articulate it through creativity. But a few things that I've found, these are just random, maybe examples off the hip. But, if I think about traveling anywhere, if you're going to like the UK or if you're going down the road to a waterfall, I would say bring a camera, because it's the act of bringing a camera that actually you're saying to yourself, I'm willing to stop. I'm willing to look. Willing to reach out for wonder. I remember, as another example, I remember when I would work on marketing campaigns, fundraising campaigns in the nonprofit world. Something that I would always do is I would begin, yes, there's going to be great design. There's probably going to be some sort of short film. There's going to be all the assets that you create. But before I get there, what I would do is I would create a document and I would call it key language. And I would just sit for hours and I would mull over this idea that we're trying to articulate. Why do we do what we do? What are we trying to say? What are different angles, right? It's the same with writing a sermon. Like if you have time to write a sermon, if you have like a month, then take the time to sit with it. That's what I do. I sit and I ideate and I reach with my mind. For example, if it's the love of God, like A.W. Tozer, I would just be like, okay, what does it mean to be loved by God? What does it mean to love God? Like when I think about the sacrificial love of Jesus, when I think about the cross, how can I articulate it? Like what are the scriptures? What are the ways that we can actually say this so that the sense of wonder, not just information, but the sense of wonder would actually hit hearts, right? Because I think knowledge, it can reach the heart. It can impact you at a heart level and stir up wonder. How cool to think that in our own lives, we can actually take responsibility. We can be the ones that reach for wonder. And in doing so, we can be the ones that give wonder, that inspire or catalyze or draw attention to things in life that are too wonderful. And so, wonder, let's look for it, let's reach for it, and let's cultivate it in our daily lives. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. The next episode, we're going to be back in to the Sermon on the Mount.